Hey, you. Yes, you. 1 second. Because we need to talk. If you want to be educated about this whole uprising on the phenomena of Black Lives Matter, you want to know exactly what to do, how you can help your community and how you can make change, then this episode is for you. Hey guys, welcome back to Tea with Tolls, where we have real conversations about mental well-being and socio-economic issues affecting young people globally. Yo! Oh my gosh, it's been such a crazy week. Emotionally exhausting week. So today on Tea with Tolls, we are talking about a topic that needs to be discussed in the UK. You guessed it. Racial injustice. Racism. And so joining me is the first ever Locum MP. And some of you are like, what does Locum mean? So she is the first ever maternity cover MP in the UK. I know. How crazy is that? So Kizzy Gardner is the first ever maternity cover for Labour MP Stella Creasy. The first of its kind. Could we just take that in for a second? Because this is 2020 and female MPs up till now have never had a maternity cover. So basically, when they're pregnant, they still working. When they've just had the baby, you guessed it, they are still working. So, I mean, whew. So who better to talk to than, of course, Kizzy Gardner herself to just talk about institutionalized and systematic racism, but also the issues with diversity in the UK. We're really looking at the problems, the challenges, but more so, guys, what can be done? Can it be done? Can we be hopeful? We have all of these questions. Young people have questions, and hopefully this episode would bring you answers.
So I think it's a different question as to what racism and diversity looks like in the UK versus what it looks like in America. I think just basically, if you look at the basic cultures, America is obviously on the whole much more brash, much more outgoing, much more upfront. Britain is much more reserved, much more hiding stuff, much more stiff upper lip, and you can't say anything and everything happens covertly rather than overtly. I think people who think that we don't have a problem with racism just are not acknowledging any kind of reality that exists.
Right.
I think, you look at I was looking yesterday at the percentages of people who are Black who are killed in police custody, who go to jail. You look at educational achievement, you look at boards of FTSE 100 companies, like you look at any basic statistics, and yes, we definitely have a massive problem with diversity. Right. So it's not as overt as it is in America. It's not as kind of upfront. People aren't being murdered in the same way, although, let's not forget that there are people in the UK that also happens to. But yeah, we definitely have an issue. And I think it's really interesting that the times in the UK that it mostly gets brought to the front is when stuff happens in America. I think we have struggled with our history to separate the two and to talk very specifically about Black Britishness and what it is to be in the UK and to be Black. I think we kind of tag along with the American stuff. And I think that's in part due to the poor teaching of history we have here and people feeling like they don't own Black Britishness. It's much more, it's been torn apart much more, and that makes me really sad. Certainly from my Caribbean heritage, I would say it's been really torn apart with the history. There's a real lack of teaching and a lack of acknowledgement of the positive stuff. When you talk about being Caribbean and Black, there's a lot of negative connotations that come with it, and there's not very little positive, but a lot less of the positive stuff comes through. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, definitely we have a problem.
It's almost like we've been made to be ignorant about Black history in the UK. And when people are not educated about something, obviously you can't really understand it because it's not your reality. So do you think it's possible that we can actually have, Black history education embedded in schools?
I remember when I was at school, we studied slavery, but it was all American. The context was all American. It was all about American slave ships and all. Like there was no British slavery stuff at all. You'd think we had nothing to do with it, which is ironic. Given
the British was so good, though, aren't we? Love it.
You wouldn't have known. So I think there's definitely something about education. I remember years and years ago, this stuck with me for a long time. It must have been probably 15 or 20 years ago. I watched a BBC documentary that was looking at race in children, and it looked at 4 and 5-year-olds. And one of the experiments they did was getting a class of like 20 kids to rate who they'd want to be friend with. And they had a board of 16 kids, from a blonde, blue-eyed kid right through to a kind of a black kid with curly black hair. And every single child in the class, including all the black kids, chose that they would want to be friends with the blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid, right, and that the naughty kid in class was going to be the black kid. Except for one kid in class who was a black kid who chose the black kid as his friend. And they did a bit of digging into the family history, and the mum had just really taken the time to teach the child about black history and about all the amazing things that black people had done, and really just school him in what it means to be black. And that always stuck with me, because I think the education at such a key age, you know, it's so trite to say you're not born racist, you grow up, but it's true. And I think education at a key age is really, you know, makes a massive difference to what we can get going forward, and to all of those biases that you just naturally grow up with. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's the same as feminist issues. If you don't try and do anything to change them, you end up with what society is feeding you, because it's so entrenched out there. Yeah. You know, all the advertising, all of the communications, all of the books, everything is entrenched for you to think that women aren't capable and that black people have only ever been slaves. And unless you take the time to actually try and undo some of that with education, that's what you're going to get, and that's what you're going to keep getting in the future. I mean, there's a big campaign going around at the moment that I've seen with change.org petitions, but it's worth signing. But I mean, again, as somebody who saw the results of all these petitions, they would come into my inbox on a daily basis. Right. Like, you want to personalize it. You want to make it show why it's important to you. Show that it was more than a 15-second click on a website that you saw and you supported because your mate signed it. Like, show why it would mean something to you.
Right. So yes, that's actually like a really good point. Are there like top tips to actually get the MP's attention when you're talking about, you know, adding black history into
so I would say, obviously, chances are your MP is going to be very, very busy. You know, they're going to be working a lot of hours, doing all sorts of things, lots of stuff that I wasn't doing. So scrutinising legislation, speaking in Parliament, like, to get a bit of that time, you want to make it something that is going to be important to the local area, because they're representing your constituency. So is there a reason why this is relevant to your specific area? You know, is this a cause that's about Walthamstow for some reason, you know? And then also do personalise it. If you just send bulk ones, you might get 50, 60 bulk emails in a day, and they get filed in a folder, and then at some point you think about kind of replying to them. But you're getting, in March, I think we got 2,500 emails. Like, wow. It needs to be, and we're talking, you know, we were dealing with people who are homeless, people who had friends who were going to die in hospital, people who were stuck in other countries. Like, the types of things that you're having to focus on as an MP are massive. And so unless your email is going to change something, or is making a difference, or there's a specific thing that you're calling for, make it really easy for them, it's probably just going to get filed in that I need to think about that, but I don't have the space right now because I'm dealing with 100 other very, very important things. Yeah. So just the collectivism stuff, which I was much less skeptical of 6 months ago than I am now. I'm much, much more skeptical of it as a tool for change. I don't know how much change it actually does. I think when you get to massive numbers, it does. Yeah. But at the lower numbers, I'm not convinced it does. Face-to-face personal stuff, like if your MP's having a drop-in surgery, or you know, can have an appointment, go there, talk to them, build a relationship with them. That's a much, much more effective way.
White privilege. What does this mean? What is this concept? What does it mean when people are saying white people use your privilege as an ally? What does that look like? What are they trying to say?
I don't know. I think there's something to be said that being a mixed race person, and so not being white and not being black really, and often being too black for being white and too white for being black, it's all of that stuff, but also being a light-skinned woman in itself is a massive privilege. Like, there's no question that I get away with and don't experience a level of racism that I would if I were darker skinned. Like, there's no question. I grew up in the UK, I've got a very British accent, like all of that. I have experienced racism, but I've probably experienced I've definitely experienced a lot less than I would have. So I have a level of, knowledge is the wrong word, but I kind of feel like I kind of get the white privilege thing, because I grew up in a very posh area, in a poor house, but surrounded by privilege, surrounded by £1 million houses, and it was very, very wealthy. And so I feel like I've kind of got a little bit of that, and I understand where people are coming from. I don't understand when people go, well, it doesn't exist, what you're talking about, we've had it hard. And it's like, you're missing the point somewhat. You're missing the point that if you look at nothing else, if you just look at the statistics, you just look at the life opportunities, it's there. And you can call it whatever you want. You can argue with the kind of phrasing of it, but it exists as a thing. And I think it's important to acknowledge it. But is it important to acknowledge it on a daily basis on your Twitter feed to your black mates? Probably not.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think is that shiny new syndrome. When you see a shiny, and that's what we're going through right now. And I'm hoping that even after this phase, people don't forget that it's still an ongoing battle that we need to fight. There's a certain privilege that comes with, because you're not from the race that has been oppressed, or things like that, you can actually speak out and people will listen to you differently. And I think sometimes it's that though, isn't it? It's like, even at the place of work, it's just trying to look around you and saying, okay, how can I mentor someone? How can I totally. Obviously we might not have the resources to hire maybe more people now, but let's start creating rooms or experience of opportunities for young black people or for young women to get experience in this field. And I think that is exactly what we're looking for. It's not always this message us how we do, baby girl. And the question I've gotten so many times is, I hope you have a support system. I've been having support systems.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I've been having support systems my whole life. How would I be here if I didn't have a support system? It's cool. I hope you have a support system. For you.
This is it, right? This is a change for you. This is your revelation. You're the one with the support system. I'm fine.
And we're all, it's such a weird time. And like you say, I am so happy that people now are realizing and coming forward. I'm always happy to have those conversations, but I think personally for me anyway, that's what I'm looking for with white privilege, is to be an ally.
And I think it's about passing the mic. If you've got a chance to have a stage, share it with somebody, bring someone else in. Like a friend of mine called Mandy does this with panels. She'll be like, if she gets asked to speak, she'll ask who else is going to be on the panel, and if there's no representation, she'll say she's not going to do it unless there's somebody else who is on the panel who is diverse in some way. And I think that's really important. There's a level of power in that. I tried to do it recently with a conference where they'd asked me to speak, and I said, well, I'll do it, but I'll only do it if you give 2 tickets to people who would normally get to come to this kind of thing. I can't tell you how confusing it was for them as a concept. I was like, this is free. You're running the conference. It's free for you to do this. I'm not asking much. It took them months and months and months to come to a decision. It was ridiculous. But I think that kind of thing is really important, is just sharing your stage with somebody else and giving them an opportunity. And I think I saw something this morning, which I know I sent to you, with somebody offering mentoring and saying, I'll teach you this and you teach me that. I think not doing it in a tit for tat way, like the person you're mentoring doesn't have to give you important life experiences about what it is to be black in the UK.
You know what I mean? All of a sudden you have to speak for this whole race. It's like, I don't know.
Just offer it without expecting something in return. That's what allyship is. It's not saying you need to now teach me how to be cool or teach me how to be street, or just offer it because it's a good thing to do, and because also, really importantly, because you genuinely believe that it will make the world a better place, and the person who you're giving it to can do it. Don't do it out of pity. Do it because you think they have something to say. Do it because you think they have something to bring to the conversation that you might not be able to do. Do it because you actually value who they are.
And I think you're so right, honestly, because at the end of the day, what we're fighting for on a higher level is equality, respect, and change. So don't give me something just because you think, I'm so sorry. And is that tilt in the head sorry? It's like, no, actually, I've earned my way. I've gone through school. I have the skills. I have the experiences. Doors are closing because institutional systematic, racial biases. So you as a person is opening that door of opportunity to say, from your skill, I would love to work with you. I would love to mentor you. I think that's the difference. And I'm hoping that's where we're going to get to. I
hope so. And I think it comes back to that phrase that you hear a lot, which is, we just need the right person for the job. And the assumption built into that phrase is that the right person for the job is a white middle-aged man. That's who people picture when they say we just want the right person for the job. The assumption is that there isn't anyone out there who is diverse, who could possibly be the right person for the job. Exactly. Which is just, we all know is nonsense. And I think it's such a poor excuse for not doing the right thing, because there are plenty of people out there who look different and who sound different, who have amazing things to say. And if you're assuming that they don't, then you need to take a little look at your assumptions. You know, for making changes, I think I'm probably going to come down a little bit controversial on this, because one of the things that I've learned